steam engines that crisscrossed the southern United States in dark tunnels surrounded by soil and rock. These trains, I thought, carried enslaved people from the violence of their plantations to the freedom of northern cities. I imagined it kind of like the subway system of New York City, except with a lot less rats. Some writers, like the Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist Colson Whitehead, have even imagined this real-life train system
SpongeBob
in their
is
stories,
April Fool's
depicting
Day.
the Underground Railroad
Yeah.
as something that traversed across the South, making stops in each state to collect enslaved people who had escaped and were trying to make their way to freedom. But the reality is, despite what third-grade Clint thought, the Underground Railroad wasn't an actual railroad. It was, in fact, something even more remarkable. It was a group of people who used their homes, their heads, and their hearts to secretly help enslaved people make their way out of the South and toward what they hoped would be a better future. These were people, black and white alike, who often risked everything to help people they didn't even know. But they helped them because they knew that slavery was wrong, and they wanted to play whatever small role they could in helping as many people as possible reach freedom. The Underground Railroad is an incredible part of American history, and it is also something that has been mythologized in ways that aren't always accurate. But today, we're going to separate fact from fiction. Let's get started.
It was beautiful.
We've established that the Underground Railroad wasn't an actual railroad. But it's also important to know that even the metaphorical railroad wasn't a centrally organized endeavor. There were no headquarters, no comprehensive maps, no Underground Railroad magazine. Many people who we now view as part of the Underground Railroad across the country didn't actually know anything about one another. The Underground Railroad was made of individuals and small networks of people working together amid the larger, less centralized operation. And while the Underground Railroad wasn't a literal train, they did often use the language of train infrastructure. The various stops and safe houses could be known as stations. The guides who led the escapees to different stations were conductors, and the folks who hid escaped slaves in their homes might be known as station masters. Harriet Tubman, among the most famous conductors, used this sort of language herself, saying in 1896, quote, "I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." It's unclear where the term
Underground Railroad,
but it's said to have first appeared in an 1839 newspaper. Frederick Douglass alludes to it in his 1845 autobiography, where he expresses frustration at the abolitionists who have been talking about the network with such a lack of discretion that he says is turning the operation into an upperground railroad. See, Douglass thought that this might compromise the entire operation. He wanted it to be something more covert, more underground. Sometimes, when people tell the story of the Underground Railroad, what they imagine, and what some early scholars depicted in their own work, was a network made primarily of benevolent white abolitionists who helped escape slaves who couldn't help themselves. And while there were many white abolitionists who were absolutely involved in the system, sometimes this story
come back next time. Okay, thank you.
Erasing the fact that it was mostly black people who were part of and who led the Underground Railroad's efforts. What's more, there were also differences in the consequences and implications of their work if they were caught. Many white abolitionists would face fines or public shame, depending on the community in which they were operating. But for most black abolitionists and escapees, everything was on the line. They could be returned to slavery, tortured, or even killed. It's worth homing in on one person who played a specifically noteworthy role in the operation. His name is William Still, and he came to be known by many as the father of the Underground Railroad. Let's go to the thought bubble. William Still was born in Burlington County, New Jersey in 1821 to Charity and Levin Still, both of whom were formerly enslaved. He was the youngest of 18 children. In 1847, William, who had moved to Philadelphia, was hired as a clerk for the Pennsylvania Society for the Abolition of Slavery. And when abolitionists in Philadelphia organized a vigilance committee to provide assistance to escaped slaves, Still became the chairman of the group and a leader of Philadelphia.